welcome to Grey County Life, and I'm one of your hosts today, Mary Jane Murray, and Rhonda is off again today, having a wonderful time, I'm sure. And my special co-host today is Francesca Dobbin from the United Way, who so graciously stepped in at the very last minute to fill in. So I'm very pleased to have you.
I'm thrilled to be here. And you know me, you can totally say, hey, can you talk more? Of course I can.
Of course. Well, yes, and that could be a challenge too, is to cut.
Yeah, too much.
But what we're going to do right now is Rhonda and I and Francesca today and I usually have an opportunity just to talk about what's going on in our community. And I think today we're really going to focus in on Halloween safety. It's coming up really quickly. We're noticing that the weather is changing. It's starting to get dark a little earlier, and we've got a lot of rain on the way. And in my area, there's a lot of leaves on the ground too that make it very slippery. So with Halloween coming up, it is an exciting time for the kids.
Fun.
First time in 2 years?
Yeah, the first, non-COVID Halloween for 2 years. So I remember, I made a slide for 2 years because we're a big Halloween house at my place. And that's part of the safety piece. We are a porch, and I always do a haunted porch. So get out there and clear the leaves off the sidewalk so that nobody's slipping and nobody's slipping on the stairs. And creating that contactless slide where you could slide the bag of chips and treats down. And we made it fun because, pandemic or not, kids are kids, and we wanted to Halloween. But, we still have to be safe.
Oh, well, yes. And sometimes we have this sort of I call it the pandemic days, where we forget things because we were in isolation for such a long time. So just getting back to some of the safety tips around being out after dark. And of course, it's really important to always be with an adult, a responsible adult, and carry a flashlight.
Oh, you have to be seen. The flashlight's really important. Going with friends, with parents, because often, somebody has to be home to hand out candy. So going with friends and family. When my kids were smaller, it was always, okay, can you take my two because I'm handing out candy this year? And that trade-off piece, because there's, if you trip on your costume or your bag rips, I always keep a couple of extra grocery bags, the reusable ones by the door, because there's inevitably some kid who's, their bag's fallen apart, and you can, hey, we gotcha, and give you another one, because there's a lot with the costumes as well. You don't want to be tripping on a long costume. You need to be able to, can you put it over a snowsuit in a pinch and not tripping, and making sure that the feet part, don't necessarily make the boots part of the costume, because you want to be able to walk that neighborhood. And here in the city of Owen Sound, it's a lot of up the stairs and down the stairs to porches.
Exactly. And one of the things that years ago with my son, we didn't think about this. He designed his own costume, and it was a big box. And here, it's up and downstairs in the city, and he was stuck at the bottom of the stairs on every house and had to rely on his brothers to get the candy for him. And the brothers aren't always wanting to give up what they've been given. And he came home and took the box off and said, forget this. So I think it's really thinking about the costume and how maneuverable it is for you. So we really got a big chuckle out of that one. But the other thing too is making sure, particularly if you have a flashlight or if your costume has lights. My grandsons have costumes where their whole bodies are lit up, crossing roads.
Oh, you have to be so, it's the worst thing to watch, when Halloween is dark and rainy, is watching kids running across the road, and, and cars are impatient and people are impatient, and we try and get that message out on Halloween night. It's a Monday night, go slow going through the neighborhoods, because the kids are darting here and there, and the young ones are trying to keep up with the older ones, and you've got costumes that are falling apart, and it's chaotic. It can be really chaotic. I mean, in a very dense neighborhood, and get over 100 kids every year. So we see that. So if you have to go out in your vehicle on Halloween night, go, take the major arteries. Don't go on the side streets, and just make that errand as quick as possible, just because it needs to be safe. And that porch light on is yes, we're giving out candy. If the porch light is off, we're done. But making sure, I always put a floodlight out over my stairs so people can see the stairs. And if we do all those things together as a community, our kids can have a ball on Halloween.
Well, I think, and that's what we want. We want to be able to bring back those celebrations to the kids, and to regenerate that energy. And so when they go home with all this loot,
yes,
and spread it out all over the floor, it's really important to have an adult check through it. We really want not only the children to be safe out on the streets, but we want them to be safe in whatever they're consuming. And we know that there are children who have nut allergies.
Yep.
So you have to read all the labels really carefully. And it's really important to check all the packages to make sure that the packages haven't been tampered with, and that if they're getting anything from neighborhoods that they're not familiar with, but you really should probably trick or treat in your own neighborhood, just as a safety factor, is to make sure that everything is checked. And I know at one point, we really want healthy eating. We want to give kids apples, but really that's probably not the thing to do. Packaged goods that are prepackaged from the distributor, the company, is probably the safer way to go.
Yeah, I remember when I, as a child, and people would do popcorn balls, and I remember one house, and she put her return address label on them, and I thought, well, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
And that's when you know your neighborhood.
Yeah.
And you know who's giving out what, and that's everything that they, that neighbor bakes brownies and cookies for everybody, and but if it's a different neighborhood for you, it's not your neighborhood, just kind of stick to that commercial grade, and then go easy. Let the kids enjoy it. Be careful and understand what your school's rules are as well, because you don't want to send candy with the kids for lunch because it's it's chips, and why not, and then find out that the school has these rules about junk food at lunch around the nutritional levels, and you don't want it taken away.
Okay, well, here we are, we're done.
Closed captioning is brought to you in part by Raven Reads. Unbox Indigenous voices. Subscribe today at ravenreads.org.
I'm Audrey.
And I'm Leah.
Leah inspired me to play hockey. The War Amps has helped me by giving me my devices I need to play hockey.
Audrey has an amputation similar to mine.
What does yours do? The stick clicks in it.
My device from the War Amps allows me to shoot a lot better. It rotates like a wrist, which helps a lot with shooting and stick handling.
When I score a goal, I feel really happy.
Welcome back to Grey County Life. I'm Mary J. Murray, and my co-host today is
Francesca from the United Way,
who's stepping in for Rhonda today, which is a real pleasure. Francesca and I go way back, way. way back. But anyway, moving on, we have a really special guest today because I am such a big fan of the Owen Sound Little Theater, the Roxy Theater, and all the productions that they put on. And the upcoming production is Beauty and the Beast. And we have Lacey Mooney, who is the director, and we have the lead cast member, Tessa Snyder, and we're going to be talking all about Beauty and the Beast. So tell us, first of all, Lacey, is this your first directing experience, and why would you take on such a huge production?
Good question. So this is my first time directing adults. So I've directed kids, but this is my first time tackling adults. And I've wanted to direct for the Owen Sound Little Theater for quite some time, but I just couldn't find a show that made me happy, that seemed to fit. And I kept looking at smaller scale shows. So should I start with a play or, you know, a musical with 10 people? And it was our musical director, Emma, who came to me and said, what about Beauty and the Beast? And my first reaction was, no way, that's a giant show. I don't think we can do that. And she said, well, we did it in high school. So if a high school class can figure it out, I bet you Owen Sound Little Theater can figure it out. And so I thought about it. We went to see a production of it in Drayton. And I went, you know, I think I want to do this. Will they say yes to this, though? Will they let me, a relatively new director, come in and say, I want to do this huge show, an expensive show, big sets, big costumes? And they went, yeah, let's do it. So it was born. And we were supposed to go in 2020. We all know what happened. Let's not talk about it. But here we are, finally. We're getting it ready for the stage.
Well, it certainly is a big production. Can you fit all those people on the stage at the same time and dance?
We're making it work. So in rehearsals, because the costumes are so big for a lot of the enchanted objects. So in rehearsals, our choreographer bought pool noodles and cut them up to the size of the costumes, and people put them in their t-shirts. So if there were a plate or something wide, it would stick out through their shoulders, or if they were a fork or a knife, it would go above. And that's how they practice. So to make sure, can they turn without smacking somebody? Can they, and especially, you know, when we have these big sets too, it's gonna be interesting, but at least they've practiced being much wider and taller than they are.
Well, I'm sure it's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm really interested in seeing, you know, how creative the Owen Sound Little Theater is, because they've done big productions before. I saw with Technicolor.
Oh, Joseph
and the
and,
Technicolor.
yep.
That was a big set.
Yep.
And so, you know, there's experience behind this. But Lacey, you've had a lot of experience, not only with directing in your youth company, but also as in the productions themselves. So you're very experienced on stage.
And I think that really helps to not only have the actors' experience, but I've worked backstage, I've worked, you know, as a stage manager, I've helped with props. You gain experience that helps you as a director, because I understand what the actors are going through. I understand how sometimes those people that are helping off stage don't get the recognition they deserve, and how far a thank you goes or appreciation. So it definitely has helped me in this role, having that background.
That's great. And I know that one of I think the caveats about the Owen Sound Little Theater is everybody does something other than just being an actor on stage, that there's all the behind scenes that you get experience with, so that you know every piece of this production. And so with Tessa, you are Belle. So tell us about that experience.
Well, I'm so honored to be such a big part of such a big show, and so excited to work with Lacey as well. I've actually known Lacey since she was quite young. Yeah. I'm a little older than Lacey, and I've just watched her come up through this, and I just think it's the coolest thing. She started as a total theater kid at the Roxy, and then just developed through the Roxy, and now to see her heading the show is just, I think it's really amazing. And I'm so proud that, I would say, I don't know how many people on our production team are female, but almost all of them. So it's a very cool production to be a part of. And it's just so nice to be back on stage. I have done shows with the Roxy in the past, but it's been about 10 years. We were counting the years because I had some children and, you know, stayed home for a little while. But to be back with such a big cast, and it's such a joyous production, and it's just been so rejuvenating and life-giving at this point after 2 hard years. So yeah, so it's very exciting.
Well, this is a musical, and so you're carrying a lot of the singing roles. And so how is that comfort level with you?
I grew up actually singing in town with the children's choir for years and years and years, and then I danced ballet my whole childhood, and I went to Randolph for musical theater training after high school. And then most recently I've been singing with Tara McKenzie. I don't know if you know her. She's amazing.
Oh, yes.
And so, so I'm feeling pretty confident and comfortable that way. But yeah, Belle does have a lot to do in the show, and she takes quite a journey. So
Tessa is a force. There was an amazing amount of women who came out for the show, and there were so many Belles we could have, you know, chosen from. They could all sing, but there's just something about Tessa that just makes me, as a director too, I just felt so calm. And I went, if she's in this role, I do not need to worry one little bit. So I thank her for taking it on, because it was definitely, I felt a lot better when Tessa walked in and auditioned. So.
One of the things I'm really enjoying is the behind the scenes sneak peeks on Facebook of, you know, because I grew up with this story. My daughter was born the year before the movie came out, of course, so it was a big part of, and it's my second favorite. Sleeping Beauty is my number one. It's kind of my second favorite, but I love the sneak peek because I'm like, oh, that's how they're doing that. Oh, that's how they're going to handle that. So it's really great to see that whole Roxy community come together with that ingenuity to stage, and such a joy to come out of all this tightness of a pandemic and go, we're going big.
Yeah, absolutely. And for auditions, we had over 60 people show up. And, you know, something as simple as set painting, there's 13 set painters. So all of these people were so eager to be involved, and we need them.
Yeah.
We need them. I mean, the set is massive, and they've been building it for quite some time, but I think there was 12 people that showed up on set day to help construct it. And it takes a village. And if you come see the show, look through the program and see the amount of people that go into making these happen. And it's one thing, you know, we see the amazing performers, but it's choreography backstage too, with props and the ASMs getting things together. It's incredible. Incredible.
Well, you have a talent with costumes as well. I mean, who stood up and said, I want to be a fork?
Yeah, I was thinking about how do you know, channel your inner fork. You know, you're not really being a spoon today. Could you find to dig a little deeper and give me more spoon?
It's tough. It's been quite, there's been some funny dialogue here just occasionally. You know, someone say, oh, you know, when I'm a napkin, I need to do this, or I never dreamt I would be a fork. And so it's quite interesting. So we just kind of divided them up randomly and said, you know what, you're going to be a fork and you're going to be a knife, and that was it. And they were very excited, because I mean, how often as an actor do you get to be
So is there an
object?
inclusivity here? Are there sporks on stage?
Or,
No.
You know,
No, I'm sorry.
there was no space for sporks.
No
For
forks.
cutlery expression.
Right, we don't even have, we have one spoon. When I don't have enough people, we can't even have a full dining set. We need more people, but we can't fit them on the stage, so.
I do think the chorus has such a lot to do in this show. You'll really see, because they come in as village people and enchanted objects, and again as village, they've got big numbers, big dance numbers. I really feel like it's a huge collaborative effort.
And with the recent loss of Angela Lansbury, of course, Beauty and the Beast,
we
just,
celebrated
it
that.
came
Yes.
back up, you know.
We did a run through in her
in
memory.
honor,
yeah.
Oh, it's such a lovely character of a teapot.
Oh, that's
some of those relationships in the show, like Mrs. Potts and Chip together, and I would say like myself and Maurice, the actor playing my father is just an old,
He's so
a seasoned, Roxy. You'll have seen him before, but it's wonderful. So it's been really fun that way. Yeah, I think people will have kind of a big emotional journey as they watch this show.
Oh, I'm so excited for all of you with this production.
Thank you.
Well, and I think this is something for the whole family as well, is it not? I mean, this is a long-standing, since the 1990s, production, and it's been done in a lot of different ways. But I think what is so much fun for our community is to have it live on stage.
Yes, it was one of my favorites too as a kid. I grew up with it. I had the yellow dress that I wore. I would make my dad be the Beast, and I would throw stuffed toys at him and pretend they were wolves. I mean, I went all out. So it's just kind of come full circle that to bring it on to the stage, and definitely for all ages. Kids will love it. The wolves might be a little scary, but or the Beast, but other than that, it's definitely a family-friendly show.
Well, when we were talking in the lobby, I said something that nearly got booted out of the lobby, and that was, I had never actually seen Beauty and the Beast all the way through, only clips, because I raised boys. I mean, I was the only woman, female, in the house full of men and boys and that sort of thing. So this was never so I'm looking forward to it from the sense that I get to watch the whole production all the way through.
Finally know how it ends.
Yeah, I know how it ends.
Love wins out. Spoiler.
And there's definitely some really funny male roles too. I heard that a young boy said, "Oh, I don't want to go see a princess show," and I said, "It's not that at all.
Really,
there's some funny characters. As long as they don't get any habits from like Gaston or LeFou, then they're good. But you can just enjoy because it's just funny. Everyone's exaggerated, over the top. It's just a good time."
Oh, well, that's great, because I think there's a transformation here. As I recall the clip, Belle is very much engrossed in books and really wants to see herself different from the other girls that are in her village. And that always intrigued me because I love books, and that's how you grow. And you see the difference on how she sets herself apart from the other girls in the village, and so I think Belle has a journey ahead of her, which I'm anxious to see in full production.
Yeah, I think she really starts. I don't think she sets herself apart purposefully, but she just is so interested in a bigger world, and she wants what she wants, and she doesn't want to be told what she should want. And I think that the love of books, that's actually something that she and the Beast bond over eventually.
Oh, spoiler alert!
Yeah, I don't tell you too much about that, but yeah, definitely.
We certainly want our audience to purchase tickets and come out and see it. Now, when does it start?
It starts November 10th. So there are 12 performances. It runs for 3 weeks. There are 2 matinees, but they are almost sold out. So if anyone wants to go to the matinee, hurry, rush to get those tickets. But lots of evening performances. And there is a masked-only performance for patrons on the 25th. So that's the last Friday. And that's for people who don't quite feel comfortable yet going into a full theater. All patrons will be masked. So hopefully that adds a little bit of comfort for those who are still nervous. But
It's not over.
right.
and we've got flu season, and just that, so
absolutely.
anybody who's slightly vulnerable, and I think that's a wonderful idea of giving people that opportunity to experience that.
For sure. Yeah.
Well, I continue to go to the Roxy and have really appreciated all the safety measures that have been put in place, and I still wear a mask when I go, because the crowd, I mean, it's lovely to see such a big crowd of people coming out, but at the same time, I have to be careful, and just for my own risk management, and I do wear a mask. And it's lovely to see how accepting people are, whether you're wearing a mask or whether you're not wearing a mask, and no one seems to blink.
I have not had that negative experience. I've heard of people having negative experience of people coming up and saying, "Why are you wearing a mask?" And I'm still wearing a mask, and no one has. I haven't had that experience, which I really, really appreciate. And we have to get to a point in society where we stop telling everybody what to wear and what not to wear. So if you're comfortable wearing a mask, wear a mask. If you don't want to wear a mask, don't wear. If you want to wear a hijab, hey, well, wear a hijab. If you don't. Who cares? Right. But go buy your tickets if you want to go to the matinee.
Or to any of the shows, please.
Absolutely. So, I know the Roxy has always taken all the precautions very seriously, and they've done a really great job. And any of the performances that we've attended, and we've attended quite a few, the Roxy always follows the guidelines. And then, but I always felt that they took just that little extra step to make sure. Not only do they want us as patrons to enjoy the production, but they want us to be well and healthy to come to the next one.
Absolutely, and that was something for our cast and crew to be safe. So the masking, if someone wants to wear a mask in rehearsals, then please do. It's all about comfort, and I wasn't going to tell you that you can't wear one or that you shouldn't wear one. It was all a personal choice. So that's what we've decided to do for the shows. Apart from that one that we will ask everyone to, but apart from that, come as you want to be.
So, Lacey, for this production that you're still directing, you're still getting organized, do you think you'd ever take on something like this again?
I go back and forth. If it's been a really good rehearsal, then I go, yeah, okay, what's next? If it's been, a little painful, I go, oh, I don't know, I need a break from this.
Lion King, one-woman show.
Right?
Lion King, one-woman show.
But there's something just so, I hate to use the word magical, but magical about such a big show. And I love when there's lots of people on stage, and I love trying to figure out where they should go and how to move. So I won't say yes or no. Time will tell.
I'm curious. Are kids easier or are adults easier to manage?
Different.
Yeah.
I find the chatter. We had a couple rehearsals where I said, okay, take a break, and it was just dead silence. And I went, well, you guys can talk. It just felt weird. I was used to kids and me having to be like, stop talking numerous times. So now we're getting, I think, a little comfortable that now I'm like, okay, adults, bring it down. But I think adults they're a little easier.
That's great. It's been such a pleasure to have you, and thank you so much for taking the time. And we really want all our viewers to get out and see Beauty and the Beast in whatever comfort level you are, matinee, masked, or for an evening production. And it starts November the 10th. November the 10th. I can't remember the date of my tickets, but it's on the calendar. Thank you. And we'll be back right after these messages.
Heartbeat of Mother Earth, I feel you and embrace your warmth. I see you dancing through the trees. Your song floats on the summer breeze. Community, we come together. We are the voice of our ancestors. Thankful for how much you bless us. Feel the thunder in the drum. All our voices sing as one. Feel the power, feel the pride. Feel the drumbeat deep inside. Feel the boom, feel the bass. Let's let go of time and space. It'll make you dance, it'll make you sing. Ode Wegun, Wedok Wishin. The drum will lead you, take you far. Always remember who you are.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
Hello everyone, your host Antoine Hashim here on the couch, and welcome to season 8. Yay! 8 seasons, and we've got a lot of awesome guests coming up, so keep watching.
Welcome back to Great County Life. I'm Mary J. Murray, and you may notice that the co-host chair Francesca Dobbin has now become my next guest.
I'm not sure if that's a promotion or a demotion.
I actually...
It's a lateral move. It's just a lateral move.
Not only a lateral move, but Francesca, you bring so much to our community as the executive director of the United Way. And as I said, we go back for a long time, and so I really appreciate the fact that you stepped in at the last minute to co-host with me, because it's really hard to banter with myself. I don't, people think I just might talk to myself.
Well, that was one of the bonuses of masking, was I'd be in the grocery store muttering about what I was cooking for dinner, and no one knew that I was actually talking to the ingredients themselves because I was wearing a mask. And I was like, oh good, nobody thinks I'm crazy. Nobody knows I'm crazy.
Well, actually, we're on a little more of a serious note, because we are just taking the pulse of the community right now. And it's not as favorable as what we would like it to be, or what we've seen in the past, and we are going into an economic situation that is more challenging for families. And so can you just give us some broad details on heat, hydro, water, all those things that are happening that are just basic necessities, and housing?
So we're seeing throughout our files, throughout the people we're talking to with our community partners, a real significant increase in need. More people are accessing food banks, more people are accessing the food programs. And when we ask why is that, and it's the cost of housing, and it's the cost of the utilities. This morning furnace oil was $2.31 a liter, and our grant of $700 will buy 300 liters. But the companies have mandated that you need to have a 500 liter minimum delivery. So we can't even get you a delivery with what our grant is. You as that homeowner or that renter have to go find the difference and find the $500 to make the delivery. So we're very concerned about the winter. We see inflation, we see groceries budgets are not getting stretched. And we just want to give people a message that this is not you. You can sit there and you should go over your finances and where is it going, and what do I need to put in the car for gas so that I can get to work, because you got to work. And then how do I prioritize, and what do I prioritize? And you prioritize housing first. Pay the rent, pay the mortgage, pay those utility bills. If you get extra money, so if the GST does get doubled, put that on your energy, put that on your hydro bill, your natural gas bill, put it on your furnace oil or propane bill. Don't necessarily go, well, I really could use a night out. We've talked about the Roxy, what a brilliant thing to do. It'd be great to take that little extra money and take the grandkids. Absolutely, if you can do that, go do that and make those memories. But also understand, what is coming with this winter. We've already I turned my heat on a couple of weeks ago because I just couldn't. It's snowing in the north where my kids are living right now. So make those decisions and make purposeful decisions with that, but know that this is not you failing to budget properly, that this is ridiculous, and understand what's happening and why it's happening. So when somebody is posting record profits and putting prices up, well, there's a direct correlation there. The war in Ukraine, it has an effect on our food systems, and it has an effect on energy prices, absolutely. But then why are the companies still, producing record profits? Have they cut staff wages and still producing, record profits? Or why can't we have a living wage for people? Because people need more money to pay the bills.
Well, just when I was listening to the radio on my way to the studio this morning, a woman called in, and she had worked for a company for 30 years and had to leave her job because she couldn't pay for the gas in her car. She's rural. So that was her transportation. To actually work in that company, it's a large box store retail company, and because they didn't pay a living wage.
Yeah.
And a living wage is not just a set amount. It's not the minimum wage that they do across the board. It's what are the expenses in that community. And living wage in various communities could be a different amount. But those large corporations do have the financial ability to pay what is required for their employees to live in those communities.
Well, we're subsidizing corporate profits because when people come to charities for support, when they go to charities like food banks and meal programs for food, they're subsidizing that company because that company is getting that labor, but they're not paying for the value of that labor because that labor is what's producing those profit margins. And we have a lot of companies that are very, very supportive of the work we do, and we really appreciate it. Absolutely, we wouldn't exist without it. We're not government funded. We're fundraised. But at the same time, we have to understand what's happening. Like, why do we have suddenly, in the last 2 years, homeless sleeping on the streets of the city of Owen Sound and out in Brockton, out in Hanover, which was not unheard of 5 years ago. And when we went looking for rooms for people to put the homeless into a room, it's $1,000 a month for a room. And the one-bedroom apartment we found that was available was $1,800 a month. And if you're a senior on your minimum basic income, that is the senior, it's $1,600. You can't. And we've got 40 or so seniors on our homelessness list right now, and most of that is because they lost their spouse, so they lost that extra income, widowed or in that way, and they just couldn't afford where they were living. But there's no continuity around housing, and the wait list for housing grows because as more working people qualify for geared to income housing because the wages are not keeping pace with the cost of living, the wait list just gets longer and longer. So you can be on a wait list for geared to income housing with a full-time job because it's just not enough to pay the bills.
So I think really the bottom line message is in this particular climate that we're experiencing, and we're just at the beginning of it, is, as you say, you think it's going to get worse as the winter goes on, is that it's not your fault.
Yeah.
It's not the homeowner's fault. It's not the renter's fault.
You're
it's
not
the person
failing. You're not failing yourself. You're not failing your family. Yeah. This is bigger. And what I would love to encourage people to do is make that 211 call when you realize you can't make the finish line. Yeah. So don't wait until you run out of furnace oil or you run out of propane or you run out of cordwood. We've got the disconnection ban on natural gas and hydro, so throw what you can at those bills throughout the winter. But if you are on oil or propane or cordwood, call 211 and see if you qualify for those programs and access those supports. Those supports are for everybody in the community that qualifies for them. It is not, a failure of you to reach out and say, I need help. We have hundreds of households that access our program every year. We did over 2,300 backpacks this year, 400 more this year than last year. And last year was full on pandemic. So, and people are much more back to work now. So what's going on out there? And we are just finding that household budget just does not stretch as far. And if you end up being evicted, the cheapest house you're in is the one you're in right now because you will not find anything cheaper. So trying to maintain that housing, if you do get eviction orders, making sure they're legal, using the legal clinics resources so that, if you do have to move, that it's done legally and correctly.
Well, unfortunately, we do have the occasional situation where we don't have landlords that are particularly following all the guidelines, and sometimes people who know that they're being taken advantage of or being evicted illegally are afraid to speak up. And so you have this cone of silence going on, which just feeds the misdeeds of landlords going forward. So, really bringing that forward and using your voice to...
The tenant-landlord relationship has responsibilities and obligations and entitlements on both sides.
Yeah.
Landlords are entitled to have their property looked after, to have their bills paid on time, to have the rent paid on time, and the tenants have the right for the rules to be followed. It's a relationship, and you can have bad tenants, and you can have bad landlords, and you can have great landlords, and you can have great tenants. And finding ways of navigating that system is really challenging.
Well, the other thing too is people are feeling overwhelmed, that you have financial services at the United Way that they could access. Could you talk about that?
So we have a financial literacy program. So if somebody is dealing with consumer debt, so Visa and MasterCard are calling every day going, when are you going to pay your bill? We have ways of helping with that. If you are finding you're really struggling financially and you don't know why is there always more month at the end of the paycheck than there is pay at the end of the paycheck? We can do a budget analysis. We can look at, are you paying for storage? We have so many people who are paying for storage because they've had family members downsize, and these are lovely things. Well, you know what? Maybe it's time to say goodbye to some things. It's time to sell some things, and look at and take that hard look at those choices and those decisions and what you are prioritizing. People that we've seen budgets where people have, I'm paying the minimum on my credit cards. Because I want to maintain my credit rating, but I can't afford my rent because of it. And it's like, okay, no, backwards priority, absolutely backwards priority.
So really the bottom line is take care of your housing.
Yes.
If you're in housing, do the very best you can to stay in that housing and make payments on your rent. If you're not even able to pay the full amount of rent, you still pay whatever you can for your rent, and then communicate with your landlord and see how you can make that up. Access your financial programs to see how things could be massaged, I guess, in your budget to make sure you have housing. Because housing is actually the foundation of stability.
And it's really important to understand as well that if you access a program, that doesn't mean somebody else is going without.
Oh, yes.
It doesn't work that way. So if you have the Ontario Energy Support Program, which is a rebate on your hydro bill, somebody's not going without food because you get that. That's a government subsidy. Accessing our program, we have the funds, we have what we have. And that's okay. You are not taking away from somebody else. Going to get a hamper from the food bank doesn't take food from somebody else. There will always be food for somebody else. There's a lot of food out there that we can share as a community. Where we have those challenges is that affordable housing. So, if that means you go to OSHARE for 2 meals a day to save your budget and your food budget, then go to OSHARE for 2 meals a day. That's what Colleen and her team are there to do, and do an amazing job. And connecting in with your local food bank. Augment, because that's what they're there. And then, hopefully when we come out the other side of this, whatever this is, be the volunteer. Help with a fundraiser. That's when you can give back.
Well, I think one of the things that is really important is, in order to stay healthy, you need to be eating on a regular basis. And if keeping yourself and your family safe by throwing your money at your heat, your hydro, your water, and your rent, and usually food is the only part of the budget that is managed or negotiable.
Yeah.
We have those accesses in our community, and really what we're trying to do is bring awareness to the community that everyone is invited, that everyone is included in order to help you stay healthy within the community.
There is help out there. You just need to find it and ask for it, and 211 will connect you to it without a doubt. And 211's there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
And you always get a live person?
You get the press 1 for English, press 2, and then depending, like if it's something big is happening somewhere, it can have a little bit of a wait. But yeah.
And
Give 'em a call.
I think that's what's most important, particularly for seniors. You want to talk to a live person.
Yep.
You don't want to have to go through and
If you want
negotiate.
this department or this
that
department, no.
yeah.
Just it's press 1 for English, and you should get connected to a person fairly quickly. You know, the pandemic gave us extra funding for 211, so we were able to make the system a little more robust. But it's there. Evenings are a good time to call because that's when people generally call during the day. And make sure you got a pad and a pen with you so you can make notes and write down, because they're not in a hurry to get you off the phone. They want to talk to you and they want to find out what else is going on and how they can help you.
Well, I think usually if you're calling for one thing, it's really kind of a chain or a ripple effect, because that one piece of information that they're giving probably influences a whole lot of other things behind it. So having that conversation or feeling as if you're not being rushed off the phone and having that conversation can actually bring out what is the core issue here that you need, so that the person answering the phone, I don't know if you call her a facilitator or
Navigator.
A navigator can actually direct you where you really need to go.
Yeah, and that's the piece with it all. I call it listening between the words.
Yeah.
And that's that active listening. And, we see that during the summer. So somebody might call in struggling with a hydro bill. And in that intake around that, you find out you got a couple of kids in there. Okay, well, let's get them signed up for backpacks while we're at it. Mm-hmm. And it's that, oh, did you know? Oh, did you know? And it's a great resource, and it's someone to call. I remember years ago a gentleman came to me and said, I called at 3 o'clock in the morning because I was at rock bottom. I was facing eviction, and I called 211, and they not only connected me to a rent program to pay the rent that I'd missed, they connected me to an addictions program that was culturally appropriate for me. I went and was able to get the support I needed, and I just wanted to let you know you saved my life at 3 a.m. Actually, from watching Grey County Life, because doing exactly this, now that I think about that. And it was a beautiful story, and this gentleman wanted to share that with me, and I was just like, I was just talking. You did the work.
Well, I think it's really important, but I think what always surprises me is the number of people who really don't know about 211 in all the promotion that we have. And I'm getting the high sign from our camera crew that we're running out of time.
Always.
And we could chat forever. So it's always a pleasure to have you, Francesca. Thank you for taking the time to co-host and be a guest as well today. And please tune in again next week for another Grey County Life. Join us next time on Grey County Life, and we'll be talking to John McLaughlin of Habitat for Humanity.
Donations to the War Amps have a lasting impact on amputees. Today, your support gives them the artificial limbs and resources they need for everyday activities and learning to live with amputation. Having access to our essential programs helps amputees prepare for tomorrow on their road to independence. The War Amps is committed to improving the quality of life for Canadian amputees, but this wouldn't be possible without you. To learn how your donation helps, visit waramps.ca.
What kind of show do you want to see on Rogers TV? What interests you? Log on to rogerstv.com, fill out a show proposal, and tell us about your segment idea. We want to know what you want to see. Rogers TV, only on Rogers.
Welcome back to Great County Life, and we are coming to the last segment on our show, which is always the adorable adoptables. And we have Jasper with us today, and he is adorable. And welcome, Renee.
I'm here too. Not nearly as adorable as Jasper, that's for sure. Jasper is what we're calling the Wish version of a French Bulldog. I say that because, I mean, if you're a Wish shopper, you know, sometimes you get what you want, and sometimes it's a little different. He's the little different. His vet records tell us he's a French Bulldog, Shih Tzu, and Yorkshire Terrier. If I didn't have those vet records, I can definitely see the French Bulldog. I actually would have put him with a Jack Russell in there. Don't know. He's definitely not long-haired like your Shih Tzu. He's definitely not got a wiry coat like your Yorkshire Terrier. He's a Frenchie mix. He is a 1-year-old male. He's been neutered, he's had his vaccines, he's been dewormed, he's been defleed, he's got all his vetting done, he is crate trained. He is basically the most perfect little dog if you like something with a lot of energy that grunts and snorts and drools, because that is all Bulldog and exactly what he is. I mean, I mean that affectionately, my friend. One ear stands, as you can see, one ear flops. From the back, he's like a half and half dog, aren't you? You're Frenchie on that side, that's your Frenchie side, oh, and there you are, something else on the other side. Basically, he's ready for Halloween. He's got his costume, he's a half and half, right? Yeah, you're so darn cute. He is fantastic with other dogs, but very playful. He's going to bounce on them. He's going to jump on them as best he can with his little stubby legs. He's good with cats. Again, loves to chase them because it's fun. You get the idea. He's one of those dogs. And great with children. He was in a home actually with toddlers, and so he's been with all ages. Basically, he is the most perfect little dog if you've got a lot of exercise abilities for him, because he is a busy guy. He'd love a fenced yard or lots of long walks. The good news about these little guys, they don't need as much space. So if you have a big home, throwing a ball around the living room sometimes helps. If you're into that, I mean, I wouldn't do it at my house because I got a lot of stuff going on in there, but certainly there are other ways to keep them amused at this side. He does like to play catch, so yay for that, right? Catching stuff is fun. Right, again, I think Jack Russell because of that, but who knows, who cares?
And he's full grown.
He is. So the French Bulldogs at full grown size are only about 40 pounds, and they're short and fat. So he's probably going to get a little wider, but he's not going to get any taller, which is kind of nice.
Okay. Is it healthy for them to get wider, or how much wider?
Goodness. He's going to be, let's say, another 5 pounds in width of muscle. It's not the best idea for him to get sausage fat. We're going to call him sausage fat because everybody will understand what I mean by that. They do, as they age, run a risk of arthritis or hip issues if they put on, too much weight. But he has the energy right now that shouldn't be an issue. That will be something as he reaches 10 years of age, 8 years of age, where he slows down, where you've got to watch his intake, right? Maybe
so
a
you
weight
have
control.
7 years of real high activity.
Probably.
So you need to take that into consideration.
Yeah, he will fit in your backpack, but he will not sit there. It's very common for people who get these little dogs, the Frenchies especially, to think that that's what they're going to do with them, sit them places, right? Which they do like to do, but at the same time, they definitely like to do their stuff, the other dog stuff as well. They're not much of a swimmer. Would you like down? Okay. Because, again, their legs are so small and their body is rather heavy. They're top heavy, so they're not much of a water dog, but they will enjoy lots of hikes and lots of outdoor time, that's for sure.
And how do they travel? Are they good in the car?
He is quite good. He is quite good. He's actually sat in the back seat with me on, not with me, I was driving. He sat in the back seat with me on the way here. And he was no problem. Put his little feet up and looked out the window, but no barking, no moving around, which was really quite nice.
And,
right?
And he's okay in a crate?
Yes, he is crate trained. Are you thinking about this dog? You should go talk to her. She's looking. Go talk to her. Show her your cute little face. Go show her. Yeah, no, he's actually a really well-mannered, well-socialized dog. These days we're seeing an increase in dogs. We call them COVID dogs, but not, oopsie, up you go, because everybody got one. In saying that, a lot of the COVID dogs didn't get out and about and didn't get socialized. Not the case with this guy. He's had the great life, haven't you? You have. You've been introduced to everything. You've been well trained. They've spent a lot of time and a lot of TLC with this guy.
So I follow you on Facebook,
Yes.
and I noticed that there are more dogs that are coming up,
They're starting to.
because it used to be cat season,
Yes.
and now we're moving into dog season.
We sure are. I'm anticipating cat season to bustle again through anytime now. When the weather starts to change, we get a lot of outdoor cats that people bring in, which we want them to do, but we'll fill back up. We are seeing a lot of dogs. People financially are struggling.
Yeah.
We're also seeing that work schedules have changed. It is a time, if you've been looking, there was a dog shortage over the last few years. If you've been looking, it's time for us to help you find one, because we've got them. If you would ask me last year if you were on a list looking for a French Bulldog mix, I'd have said, I'll call you. Probably not. And now they're coming in.
And now,
Yeah, they are. So, I mean, a good time if you're looking. That's for sure, right?
And so I do need to check in with Bramble.
Yes. Bramble got adopted, and his name is now Scramble, which is nice, which is a whole lot easier to remember. He's got a home with another doodle and a family with children, and I've already had a few updates. He's loving his new life, which is good. Hi. Hi, you want to come back up here?
That's interesting.
Come back up.
When you change a dog's name, from Bramble to Scramble, that's pretty close.
Pretty
so
close.
It's not, but when you change it to something entirely different, how do they respond?
Well, it happens, unfortunately or fortunately, a lot of the time at the animal shelter, because a lot of them come in without any history and without any names, so we just do it. We have to call them something. The bottom line is, pop, pop, only works for a couple of days, and then they lose interest. It takes a bit of time, but they can do it. Dogs are super smart. You just have to make sure yourself that you do it in the beginning rather than switch it midway through, because that complicates the whole process.
Oh, I see.
It does help if you have something similar. We do with the dogs at the shelter try to go through the list, you know, Buddy, Molly, Sadie, you know, to see what kind of a reaction we get. Jasper, we knew his name, so you get to be Jasper forever, maybe, or something like Jasper, like Casper, I don't know. But we've had some names come in that are certainly needing to be changed too, because they're just not nice, like Terror, for example. How do you adopt out a Terror?
Well, I always thought, you know, for our dogs, you know, I wanted, and for my children too, if I'm standing on the veranda shouting out a name, I wanted it to be, you know, something that
you're not embarrassed about.
Yes,
I hear you.
exactly.
I hear you.
So I you know, once again, we always enjoy having the adorable adoptable segment. And look at that, he's just mugging for the camera. And we're looking forward to seeing you next time, next week, for the adorable adoptables. And hopefully we'll see that Jasper, or hear that Jasper is in a new home.
Oh, thanks.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
Do you worry about how much someone drinks?
Do you feel angry or depressed most of the time? Do you feel neglected or unloved?
Do you feel that if the drinker loved you, she or he would stop drinking?
If you answered yes to any of these questions, you are not alone.
Not everyone trapped by alcohol is an alcoholic.
Families and friends are suffering too. Al-Anon and Alateen can help. Call 1-866-200-0223 or visit alanon.org/help.
I am Audrey.
And I'm Leah.
They inspired me to play hockey. The War Amps has helped me by giving